Hey guys, Daniel here. Hope you guys are doing well, and more importantly, I hope that your exams are going well because we're getting towards the end of May now, and yeah, I'm sure you guys are in the thick of things now. So I hope that it's all going well. I'm sure you guys are just ticking off the exams as they come along, and you guys are acing every single one of them. But yeah, welcome to my predicted paper two for obviously paper two, which is on the 4th of June. And yeah, I think this is going to be a better prediction. To be fair, I did look at paper one, and a lot of the things that I did put there did come up actually, so I was quite happy with that. But yeah, I think this is going to be an even better one because obviously we've seen topics in paper one that did come up. So obviously those topics are not going to be in this one, and I mean not necessarily, but you know what I mean. But yeah, hopefully this will be a better predicted paper. As normal, 80 marks, hour and 30 minutes. The link to the paper will be pinned in the comments, and it will also be in the description as well. And yeah, if you're watching this, make sure you do the paper first before actually watching the video. So if you stumbled across this first before actually trying the paper, then just have a go at the paper in exam conditions and yeah, come back to the video. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it for me. Let's get right into it. Okay, so question one says, write 3095 correct to the nearest hundred. So you got the 95 there. Nearest hundred is going to be 100, isn't it? So final answer is going to be 3100. Write 0.08 as a fraction in its simplest form for question two. So you got a calculator now. So what you can do is just literally put this in. So do 0.08 and then click equals. The calculator does it for you. So it's 2 over 25. So make use of your calculator here, guys. Question three. It says change 7.2 kilograms into grams. Well, remember how many grams there are in a kilogram. There are 1000 grams in 1 kg. So the way I like to think of it is if I want to go from kilograms to grams, I need to change that number from 1 to 1000. So we times by 1000, isn't it? So all you're going to do is just do 7.2 times 1000, which is just going to be 7200, isn't it? So we 7200 grams. Question four. It says simplify b plus b plus b plus b. So you've got four b's there. Remember, they're all the same. Think of these as a 1b. 1b, hold on, let me write this. 1b plus another 1b plus another 1b plus another 1b. You're going to have four b's, aren't you? So it's going to be 4b. Question five. Here is a list of numbers 9, 12, 16, 18, 20, and 24. From the list, write down a multiple of 6. Okay, so how do we get multiples of 6? Well, you start with 6, then you keep adding on 6, don't you? If I add 6, I'll get 12, and then 18, and then 24, and then 30, and so on and so forth. So out of these numbers here, well, one multiple of 6 would be a 12, right? The other answers would be 18 and 24. Yeah, but you only need to pick one of them. So yeah, answer's 12. Let me just put this here. Perfect. Okay. Question six says Laverne has a fair ordinary dice. She rolls the dice once. On the probability scale, mark with a cross the probability that Laverne gets the number 12. Okay, you're dealing with an ordinary dice. It's fair. There are only 6 faces on the ordinary dice, right? 12 is not on the dice. So the answer is going to be 0. It's impossible for you to get the number 12 on your dice if it goes from 1 to 6. Okay, part B. On the probability scale, mark with a cross the probability that Laverne gets an odd number. Okay, well, you're trying to find a probability. Well, remember, to calculate a probability, it's the number of ways you can get what they're asking you for out of the total possible outcome. So we're dealing with a fair dice. It goes from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. How many of these are odd numbers? 1, 2, 3, right? So it's going to be 3 out of how many numbers are there in total? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There are 6. We can simplify this. 3 over 6, divide top and bottom by 3. You're going to get 1 half. So the answer is a half, and that would go over there. So that's question 6 done. Let's go to question 7. Okay. Question 7 says, let me zoom in a little bit. Okay. It says Harrison works 4 hours. He is paid £75. How much is Harrison paid per hour? Okay. Well, remember, what you're going to say is that 4 hours is equal to £75, isn't it? And you want to work out the cost of 1 hour because it says how much is he paid per hour. So we want to figure out what 1 hour is. So we're going to divide by 4, aren't we? So I'll get the calculator, put in there. 75 divided by 4 is equal to £18.75. So that's the answer there. Okay, question 8 says ABC is a straight line. As we can see, we've got an angle of 150 degrees. Part I says work out the size of the angle marked X. Okay, well, remember, angles on a straight line, they add up to 180. So this angle X, right, is going to be 180 take away 150, isn't it? Which is just going to be 30 degrees. Yeah, so it's going to be 30 degrees here. It says give a reason for your answer. All angles on a straight line add up to 180. So you just going to say angles on a straight line add up to 180. And that's it. That is question 8 finished. Okay, so question 9 says Michaela writes down the distance readings from her car at the start and end of a journey. So start of the journey, we've got 13,526 miles. End of the journey is 13,982 miles. Michaela knows that the cost of petrol for this journey is 17p per mile. Work out the total cost of the petrol used for this journey. Give your answer in pounds, and this is 4 marks. Okay, so firstly, for us to let's actually work out let's write down what we know, I should say. So we know that the cost of petrol is 17p per mile, right? So I'm going to say that 1 mile, right, is equal to 17p. Now, what we'd want to work out is how many miles she's traveled, and we can do that because we've got the start and end of her journey in miles. So to calculate how many miles she's traveled, so I'm going to write number of miles, right? Surely this would just be the difference between the end and start of their journey, isn't it? Right? So what I want to do is take away the top from the bottom. So I'm going to do 13,982, take away 13,526. And this will give me the number of miles Michaela's traveled. So let's put this into the calculator and see what we get. So it's going to be 13,982, take away 13,526, and this is equal to 456. So Michaela travels 456 miles. And we know the cost of petrol per mile, isn't it? So what I'd want to do is work out how much this is in pounds, and I can in pences, and then I convert it to pounds. So I know that 1 mile is 17p. I need 456 of them. So I'm gonna times both sides by 456, aren't I? So I'm gonna say 456 miles is gonna equal 17p times by 456, isn't it? So I'll put this into my calculator and see what I get. 17 times by 456. That's going to give me 7,752 pence. This is for 456 miles. Now remember, we want it in pounds, not pence. So remember, how many pennies are in a pound? 100. 100p is equal to £1. So how do I go from this 100 to this one? You divide by 100. Yeah. So what you're going to do now is you're just going to do 7752 divided by 100. And that will give us, always put your calculator just to be safe. You've got a calculator, so just use it. We get this there, £77 and 52 pence. And that's it. Finished. Okay, so question 10 says Kaim is choosing a snack and a drink. He has a choice of 3 snacks and a choice of 3 drinks. So we've got the snacks column on the left, we've got crisps, raisins, or toast. We've got the drinks, water, fizzy drinks, or juice. Kaim is going to choose 1 snack or 1 drink. List all the possible combinations Kaim can choose, and this is 2 marks. Okay, so what you want to do with these types of questions is always do them systematically, right? So for example, let's say I start with a snack. I'm going to fix the snack to be a crisp, and then you want to ask yourself, well, what are the possible drinks I could get? Well, if I get a crisp, I could also get water for the drink. If I stick with crisp, I could get a fizzy instead. Or if I stick with crisp, I could get a juice. So I could get these 3, and that's when I fixed the crisps. Now, what I want to do is change the snack from a crisp to raisins and do the exact same thing. So raisins, it can either be water or fizzy or juice again. And then the last one is toast, isn't it? So it'll be toast, and then it could be water, fizzy, or juice. And that's it. These are the possible combinations. And yeah, again, just do it systematically. Fix one of them and then find the other combinations. And then that's pretty much it. Perfect. All right. So that's done. Question 10 is done. Question 11. Question 11 says 278 people go on a school trip. The people on the trip are either adults or children. There are 18 adults on the trip. 40% of the children on the trip are wearing a hat. Find the number of children on the trip who are not wearing a hat. So we've got not in bold here, so you've got to be careful. Okay, so what do we know? There are a total of 278 people, and there are 18 adults on the trip. So I'm going to write there are 18 adults. I'm going to say adults is equal to 18. Now, if there are a total of 278 people and there are 18 adults, that would allow me to calculate the number of children, right? I'm going to say the children will be equal to the total number of people, 278, minus the adults, right? 217 take away 80. 278 take away 18 is 260. So there are 260 children. Now, let me write this, 260 children. Now, we know that 40% of the children are wearing a hat. So what I'd want to do is work out how much that is, right? Or to be fair, let's actually write this. All right, 40%, right? All right, equals hat, right? So what I could do from here is actually say, well, if 40% of children are wearing a hat, then the other percent, which would make 100, must be not wearing a hat, right? So I would say 60%, right, is equal to not wearing a hat. Yeah. Now we know how many children there are. There are 260 children. So the number of children that aren't wearing a hat would be 60% of 260, just because of that is the percentage of children that aren't wearing a hat. So I'm going to say 60% of 260. That is going to be our answer. So I'll put this into the calculator and see what we get. So, oh, great here. 0.6 times 260. I'll just do it again. 0.6 times by 260, right? Remember, when you want to do these types of questions, 60%, you want to change that to a decimal by dividing by 100. 60 divided by 100 is 0.6. We know that of means to multiply, and then we times by 260. So therefore, it's going to be 0.6 times 260, which is equal to 156. So there are 156 children that are not wearing a hat. So I'll just write that there. Perfect. That's question 11. Let's do question 12. Okay. Question 12 says Caprice is trying to find the area of this rectangle. Let's actually see the rectangle first. So we've got the base and height to be 7 and 6. She writes the area is 1,764 centimeters squared because 6 times 7 times 6 times 7 is 1,764. Explain what is wrong with Caprice's method. Well, she's got the formula wrong, right? So you could just say the formula for the area is base times height. Yeah. So all she needed to do is just multiply 6 and 7 once, right? She's done it twice. She's done it too many times, right? So it should just be 6 times 7, which is equal to 42, like this. And it would be centimeters squared, isn't it? So that is the problem. Okay, that's part A. Part B says Harley works out the volume of an object. His answer is 3,500 centimeters. Explain why his answer cannot be fully correct. Because Harley's got the units of measurement wrong. Remember, we're dealing with volume, not a length, right? The measurements for volume is centimeters cubed, the units of measurement, right? Centimeters cubed. It's a cubic measurement. So all you need to say here is that the measurement for a volume is cubic, right? It should be centimeters cubed. Like that. Centimeters is for a length. And that's it. That's question 12. Let's go to question 13 now. So, question 13, it says write the following numbers in order of size. Start with the smallest number, and it's only 2 marks. So, what you want to do here, guys, is you have a calculator, right? You've got different numbers, and they're expressed differently. Some are fractions, some are percentages, and some are decimals. What you'd want to do is get this into the same format, right? So you can easily see what's going on. So, what I will do is let's put it all as decimals, just so it's easier to see. I think that'd be probably the best thing. Let me just make sure. Let me zoom out a little bit, just so you guys can see my calculator as well. Okay, I think that's okay. And if I put my calculator here, perfect. Okay, so 5/8, what is that as a decimal? Press SD, 0.625. So let's write that there, 0.625, like that. This is 0.63. And let's do 62%, which is 0.62. But anyways, you could do 62 over 100 just to be super sure. You get that there. So that's 0.62. And then 3 over 5 is 0.6. But put it in the calculator just to be safe. 0.6. And then we got 0.615, don't we? Okay. Let me just write this a bit neater. Okay. So now you're here. We've got this all in the same format. They're all decimals now. So it's easy to see what the answer is. But what you want to do first is ask yourself, what is the highest amount of decimal places you see here? You see here that there are 3. So what you want to do is you want to write all of these decimals with the same number of decimal places. And if it doesn't have a 3 decimal places, you can just add zeros at the end and it doesn't change the number. So 0.63, I can put a 0 there. 0.62, I can put a 0 there. And then 0.6, I can put 2 zeros there, can't I? Yeah. And then now all you're doing is just comparing the numbers after the decimal place. It says start with the smallest number. What is the smallest number here? It looks to be 600. So I'm gonna put this as number 1. This is number 1, which is 3 over 5. Right? What is the next number? It looks to be 615, right? So it's going to be this number, number 2. It's going to be the second smallest. So it's going to be 0.615. Always write in order that they've put it in originally. The next number is going to be 62%, isn't it? Which is going to be that one, number 3. Which is going to be 0.6. Sorry, write it as a percentage because that's how they've written it, isn't it? 62%. Okay. Next one is going to be 5/8, 625, right? So that's going to be 5/8 there. And I'll put number 4. And then the largest number here is 0.63, isn't it? Because it's 630 there. So 0.63. And that is it. That is question 13 finished. So again, just make sure you write these in the same structure. Writing them as decimals is quite good because you have a calculator. You can just press SD. And yeah, that's it. Okay, so question 14 says a shop sells birdseed in 25-liter bags and in 50-liter bags. One day the shop had 2 special offers for the birdseed. So we've got 25-liter bags, 2 bags for 480, and we've got 50-liter bags, 3 bags for 1170. Which offer is the better value for money? You must show how you get your answer. And this is 3 marks. Okay, so these types of questions, you're comparing them, right? What you always want to do is work out how much each of these are for the same amount or same value. And what I mean by that is, for example, we know that we've got 25 liters here. If we could figure out the prices for the same number of liters, right? Then we can compare the prices, whichever one is cheaper would be the better value. So let's have a look at what we've got here. We know that 2 bags is for 480 and 1 bag is 25 liters. So from this one here, I'll just put this as number 1 and number 2, right? Number 1, I know that I get 2 bags for 480. If 1 bag is 25 liters, that means that 2 bags is equal to 50 liters, right? And I know that I get 2 bags for 480. So I can actually say then that 50 liters has to equal £4.80. So I've got that from this 25-liter bag. Now from number 2, what can I see? Well, I know that 50 liters, it's 50-liter bags. We get 3 of these bags for 1170. So I know that if that's the case, then that would mean that 3 bags, right? We would just times that by 3, wouldn't we? 150. And I know the cost of 3 bags is 1170. So then I can actually say that, well, 150 liters has to equal £11.70, isn't it? So remember what I said? We want to compare the same amount and see what the prices are for both of them, right? So let's figure out the same amount in liters and then see what the prices are. Now, this is 50 liters, that's 150. Well, I could change this, I could triple this, right? So I get 150 liters and figure out what the cost is of that and then compare it to the offer on the right. So I'm going to times this by 3, which means I'm going to times 480 by 3, aren't I? So I put this in my calculator and I get this there. 4.8 times by 3 is 14.4. I'll do it again. 4.80 times by 3 is 14.4. So it's going to be £14 and 40 pence. Okay. And then we know that this here, whoops, 150 litres, right, is equal to £11.70. Now we have the same amount. We've got different prices. This is much cheaper, right? So definitely the 3 bags for 11.70 has to be the better value for money. So you're going to say 3 bags for 11.70 is cheaper, is the better value for money, I should say. Better value for money as, or I could say since, £11.70 for 150 litres is less than £14.40, right? For the same amount. You want to save money, don't you? So yeah, that's it. Okay, so question 15 says the diagram shows a rectangle and an isosceles triangle. So we've got the rectangle there, we've got the isosceles triangle there. The perimeter of the rectangle is equal to the perimeter of the triangle. Part A says find the area of the rectangle, and this is 3 marks. Okay, so firstly, they've given us two shapes and they've given us a statement here, right? A statement. The perimeter of the rectangle is equal to the perimeter of the triangle. And I like to call these algebraic worded problems, right? Whereby they give you some statement, some sentence in English, and it's up to you to translate it into a mathematical equation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break down this sentence into a few parts. So I've got the perimeter of the rectangle. That seems to be quite key, right? And then is equal to, right? So that's fine. And then is equal to, let me make this a bit thicker. Whoops, I need green. So is equal to is the next part, right? And then the perimeter of the triangle, right? So what I want to do is work out what each of these bits are in the colors, right? And then put them together. So the perimeter of the rectangle. Now, they've only given us the height of this rectangle. We do not know the width, right? Or the base, right? So, what do we call numbers in maths when we don't know the number? When we actually don't know it. We're going to call it x. We're going to give it a letter. We're going to use algebra. So, I'm going to call this x and I'm going to call it x. And obviously, this is 5, isn't it? Because it's just the other side. And now, this is an isosceles triangle. From our triangle laws, we should know that this is also 8 centimeters as well. Now, they've told us that the perimeter of the rectangle is equal to the perimeter of the triangle. Okay. Now, we can find an expression for the perimeter of the rectangle, can't we? Even though we don't know what the base is, right? We can still add them together algebraically. So I'm gonna say perimeter, all right, P of R, perimeter of the rectangle. We're gonna add all of these together. I'm gonna start from the top and I'll work my way around like that. So it's gonna be x plus 5 plus x plus 5, like that. And then this here, I can actually simplify algebraically. I've got an x and an x, that's going to be a 2x. 5 plus 5 is 10. So an expression for the perimeter of this rectangle is 2x plus 10, like that. And now we've got this statement is equal to, what is that mathematically? That's just an equal sign, right? And then the perimeter of the triangle, we can work that out, all right, P of T here. That's even easier because we've got everything. It's just going to be 8 plus 12, isn't it? And that's going to be 16 plus 12, which is going to be 28. Now, we know the perimeter of the triangle now. We can put this there. So what have we done? Well, we had a statement in English. The perimeter of the rectangle is equal to the perimeter of the triangle. We've now translated that to make, I should say, 2x plus 10 is equal to 28, right? So that way we have formed an equation, and this is a key skill that they like to test in an exam, right? If you're able to form equations. The question asks us to find the area of the rectangle, right? So even if you think about it, we don't know what the base is. The area of a rectangle is base times height. So for us to work out the area of the rectangle, we need to figure out what the base is, which you called x, which means we need to solve an equation. So these are all of the little steps and hints that you're going to need to be able to decipher what you need to do in this question. So now that we've got this equation, we can solve it. Well, what I'm going to do, remember, you always take away or add anything that's being the number to the side. So I've got a plus 10 here. Because it's being plus, you always move this first. So I'm going to take 10 away from both sides. So I'm going to get 2x is going to equal 28 minus 10. And that means that 2x is equal to 18. And then with 2x is equal to 18, we divide both sides by 2 to get 18 over 2, which is 9. So x is 9, and that is our base. So now we've got the dimensions of this rectangle. The question asks us to work out the area. So therefore the area is just going to be quite clearly 5 times by 9, which is going to be 45. So the answer is going to be 45 centimeters squared. And that's it. Now let's do part B. Part B says the diagram shows a cuboid, right? Okay. It says the volume of the cuboid is 231 centimeters cubed. Calculate the value of W. So they've given us the dimensions, but one of them is in terms of a letter W. Now remember the formula for the volume of a cuboid, right? It's just literally length times width times the height. So you literally just times all of these numbers together. So what I will do, again, this is an algebraic worded problem, right? They've given us a statement. The volume of the cuboid is this. They ask us to find the value of a letter. We need to form an equation and solve it. So remember this key skill, forming equations. You have statements there. Can you translate this into a mathematical equation? That's what they want to test. So from there, what we can say is, well, the volume, right, we know is 231. Right? And then if I just put these here, well, that's going to be 7 times W, right? Times by 6, like that. So we've actually formed an equation, haven't we? Now we need to find W. What we can do from here is say, well, 7 times 6 is 42. So I've got 42W. And then to get W on its own, we're just going to divide both sides by 42, aren't we? So therefore, we're going to have 231 divided by 42 is equal to W. So therefore, W is equal to, and I'll put this into my calculator and see what we get. What's that? 231 over 42. This is equal to 5.5. So this is 5.5 centimeters, and I'll put this there. And that's question 15. Finished. Okay, so question 16 says the table gives information about the number of minutes that Kyra spent walking each day in September. So we've got the number of minutes and we've got the frequencies. It says work out an estimate for the mean number of minutes that Kyra spent walking each day in September. This is 3 marks. Now, this is you're calculating a mean from a from group data, right? And it's an estimate. What you always want to do, right, is make another column, right? And the whole logic behind it is this. What we're saying here is that for a certain amount of days, for 5 days, Kyra walked between 0 and 30 minutes. But we don't know exactly how long she walked for. It could have been 12 minutes. It could have been 17 minutes. It could have been 30 minutes. It could have been 29 minutes. We don't know exactly where, or not where, but how long she walked for in this interval. So what we say is we're going to assume it's the average, right? That's the safest bet. So you're going to do the midpoint of each of these intervals here, right? Now, uh, to calculate the middle of two numbers, you add them together and then divide by 2, or you can just inspect it. So, for example, this one's going to be 15. This one's going to be 45. This one is going to be 75. This one is going to be 105. And then this one is going to be 135, isn't it? All right. Remember, you can just add these numbers together and then divide by 2. So, for example, 30 plus 60 is 90. Half of 90 is 45, and so on and so forth. Yeah. So you could just do it. You could just do it that way, essentially. So now we've got our values here. What we can do is say, well, we want to work out the mean, right? How do we calculate the mean? You sum up all of the values and you divide by the amount. So, for example, if I start with this one here, what we're saying is that 5 times Kyra walked for 15 minutes on average. So we would add those 15, we would add that 15 5 times, right? And then add the 45 6 times and so on and so forth. But that's just the exact same as multiplying them together. So you're gonna multiply these together and then you're gonna create one more column. And you're gonna call this F times the midpoint, the frequency times the midpoint. Right? And that just does it for you. So you don't need to obviously add them manually. You can just multiply. Obviously, this table isn't the best, but you guys get the picture. So I'm going to multiply these together and see what I get. I'll just put it in my calculator because we've got one. So 5 times 15 is 75. 6 times 45 is 270. 8 times 75 is 600. 9 times 105 is 945. And 2 times 135 is 270, but you always want to just be safe, in an exam. You want to check if 1 plus 1 is still 2, Okay, so now we are here. What you want to do is add these together. So let me actually get the formula for you guys now. So an estimate for the mean when you're doing these types of questions, right? Estimate for mean is equal to the sum, right, of your frequency times midpoint column divided by the total frequency. Perfect. So what we want to do now is add all of these numbers together here, and I'll do it just underneath here like that, right? So I'm going to add all of these numbers together and see what I get. So I'm going to do 75 plus 270 plus 600 plus 945 plus 270. This is equal to 2160. That's 2160, and that would go there. Now we need to figure out the total frequency. This is just the sum of these here. But remember, it's the days of September, which are 30. So let's just add them though, just to be safe though. Let me put another one there. And we should get 30 because there are 30 days in September last time I checked. 5 plus 6 plus 8 plus 9 plus 2 is 30. Perfect. So the answer is going to be 2160 divided by 30. So put this into the calculator, see what we get. 2160 divided by 30 is 72. So the answer is just 72 minutes. And that's it. And that will give you the 3 marks. We put 72 here. Perfect. Brilliant. So question 17 says expand y times y minus 6. Now remember to expand, right? Let me actually zoom in actually a bit so we can see a bit clearer. Good stuff. Okay. So remember, to expand, you're going to do this times that and then that times this, isn't it? So y times y is going to be y squared. And then y times minus 6 is just going to be minus 6y. So the answer is just going to be y squared minus 6y. Like that. Okay. And then now let me just zoom out a bit just so the camera's not in the way. Okay. So perfect. All right. Factorize 3a minus 12. Now, when they say factorize, that means to put into brackets, isn't it? So what you want to do is look at both terms and see if you've got any common factors, which you do. We've got 3 and a 12. We know that a 3 goes into both 3 and 12. So you could put 3 on the outside. And then how factorization works is you want to ask yourself, what would I need to multiply to get back to what I started with? So 3 times what would make me a 3a would just be an a, right? There's a minus there, so minus can go there. 3 times what will make me a 12 is 4. Yeah, so the answer is just going to be 3 bracket a minus 4. And the way you can check to see if you're correct is if you expand this, you should get what you started with. And we do 3 times a is 3a, 3 times minus 4 is minus 12. So it becomes 3a minus 12. So you can always check that way. So that's part B. Part C says solve 2 bracket 5x minus 3 is equal to 19. So what you want to do with this one is you want to get rid of the brackets first by expanding. So doing that is going to be 10x, right? Minus 6, and that will equal 19. And then now we've got this equation here. Remember, you always want to move this first. So move anything that's been added or subtracted away. So I'm going to add 6 onto both sides. So I'm going to have 10x is equal to 19 plus 6. So therefore 10x is equal to 25. And therefore x, remember to get x, we're going to do 25 divided by 10, which is just equal to 2.5. So the answer is just 2.5 there. Okay, now part D says simplify 4a squared b times 5ab cubed. Okay, so with this one, what we're going to do is you want to do it separately. I'm going to write it out again. 4a squared b times by 5ab cubed. You always want to do this bit by bit. So you do the numbers together and then the letters together as well. And then, yeah, so a's and then the b's. So like that. So with that being said, 4 times 5 is 20. A squared times an a, remember that is an a to the power of 1. Index laws, you add the powers together. So it could be a to the power of 3. 2 plus 1 is 3. And then this one again, this is a 1, isn't it? So it's b to the power of 1 plus 3 is 4. So the answer is going to be 20, whoops, 20 a cubed, b to the 4. And that's it. Finished. Hey, so question 18 says change 4 meters squared into centimeters squared, right? And it's only 1 mark. So remember, what you want to do is just be very careful, right? Now, remember, in terms of your units, right? Forget about the squared for now. What we do know is that 1 meter, right, is equal to 100 centimeters. Yeah. So what you want to do, you can just memorize this, or you could just square it, but I'll just show you visually, right? So let's just say I have a square, right? And there's it's the same square, and I say that this is 1 meter here, and this is 1 meter there. And obviously 1 meter is 100 centimeters, isn't it? So I'll do the same thing here, right? It's the same square, just different measurements. If I want to work out the area, because I want a square measurement, right? That's an area. I'm going to do 100 times 100, which is going to be 1 with 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros, isn't it? So centimeters squared. You can put in your calculator just to check. And then obviously this is going to be 1 times 1, which is just 1, right? Now we can see quite clearly that these are the same. Yeah. So what I can say from this is that 1 meter squared is equal to 1,000,000 like that, right? Which is 10,000, isn't it? Centimeters squared. Now we've got this here. Now what you need to do, we want 4 meters squared. So we just want to multiply by 4, right? So times that by 4, times that by 4, times that one by 4. That's going to be 40, isn't it? 40,000 centimeters squared. So the answer is just going to be 40,000 centimeters squared. And that's it. And yeah, what you could do is 1 meter squared, 1 meter is equal to 100 centimeters, right? You could just literally just square both of them. So if I square this, I'll have 1 squared with the m squared like that, and that'll be 100 squared with the centimeter squared like that. And then that is 1 meter squared, and that is 1,000,000 centimeters squared. Yeah, you could just do that and then obviously times by 4. But I think this is a good way because you can actually see why you actually have to square them. Yeah. But yeah, the answer is 40,000 centimeters squared. And that's it. Okay, so question 19 says Thando buys a second-hand bicycle for £120. She sells the bicycle for £93. Work out her percentage loss. Okay, so whenever you're dealing with percentage profit, percentage loss, or percentage change, there's just a formula for it, right? All you need to remember is the change, right? The change divided by the hold on, original. I mean, I's and R's are connected. Original times 100. No, I don't like that. Let me write that again. Sorry, guys. Original. Okay. Change over original times 100. That is literally the formula. So with that being said, well, what would the change be? Well, it went from £120 to 93. So it's going to be the difference. So you're going to do 190. Sorry, not 190, 120 take away 93, right? And you're going to divide this by the original. What was the original? Well, she bought the bicycle for £120, right? And then you're just going to times it by 100. So that's just going to be an answer. So I'll put this into calculator and see what we get. So we're going to have 120 minus 93 over 120 times 100. And that gives us 45 over 2, which is 22.5%. So the percentage loss is 22.5%. And that's it. That's question 19. Let's go to question 20 now. Okay. Question 20 says, work out the value of 18 minus the square root of 37.62 divided by 5.1 plus 8. 5 plus 1.8 all squared. Write down all the figures on your calculator display. So this is just calculator work. So what you want to do with this one, guys, remember, just literally write it the exact same way it's given in the question. So you want to get your fraction bar first. You want to write it like this. You don't want to use this symbol. You want to use the fraction symbol. 18 minus square root 37.62 divided by 5 plus 1.8 squared. You should not lose this mark, guys. It's literally just copying. So we're going to write out everything that the calculator says. It's going to be 1.4401, 1.4401, 07465, isn't it? Let me just double check because you don't want to lose the mark. 44010, yep, 7465. Perfect. That's 2 marks. Just like that. Now, part B, it says work out the value of the reciprocal of 0.578. Now, remember, the reciprocal of any number is just 1 over it. So if they want the reciprocal of that number there, it's just literally going to be 1 over 0.578, like that. And that there, put that in the calculator, 1 over 0.578. So that gives us 500 over 289. You can just leave it as a fraction, like that. 500 over 289. What is it as I see? Yeah, just leave it as a fraction. It's fine. Perfect. And that is it for question 20. Okay, so question 21 says Prosperity Bank has two types of account. Both accounts pay compound interest. So we've got the cash savings account with an interest rate of 2.8% per annum. We've got the investment account with an interest rate of 3.6% per annum. Carter invests 2,200 in the cash savings account. Jamila invests 1,700 in the investment account. Work out who will get the most interest by the end of the 3 years. You must show all your working. Now, be very careful. It's asking us for the most interest, not how much money they get overall. So to get the interest, you'd want to work out the difference between how much money they've got after the 3 years, take away the amount they started with. So we're doing compound interest. So there's a very easy formula. We've got Carter who's in the cash savings account. So I'm going to write C for Carter. Now all you're going to do is you're going to do your initial value, which is going to be 2,200. That's the amount Carter invests, right? You're going to multiply it, right, by a certain number. And we call this our multiplier, right? Now, how do you work out that? Well, the cash savings account, the interest rate is 2.8% per annum. So it's increasing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, well, we start off with 100% and then we add on that 2.8%, right? And then this is going to be overall 102.8%, isn't it? And then what you do now is you just divide this number by 100 to convert into a decimal, and that will be 1.028. And that is what will go here. And then you put it to the power of however many years you're dealing with. So right now it's for 3 years. So we'll put it to the power of 3. And this value here will give me the amount of money that Carter gets after 3 years with this interest rate of 2.8%. So let me put this in my calculator, see what I get. 2,200 times by 1.028 to the power of 3. That is equal to 2,390.02, isn't it? Right? That's the amount that he gets. So what you'd want to do is to work out the interest, right? To work out Carter's interest, you're going to do that amount minus 2,200, right? So you're going to just do that. So I'm going to do it there. So 2390.02 minus 220. That gives us 190.2 pence. Yeah, so that is going to be how much interest Carter gets. £190.02 pence. Okay, now for Jamelia, same thing. Jamelia invests 1,700, right? We're going to multiply. We know it's for 3, so I put to the power of 3. Now, what is the multiplier? Well, let's look. Well, it's 3.6% per annum, right? So we're going to say it's going to be 100% plus 3.6%, which is going to give you 103.6%. And if you divide that by 100, that would just be 1.036, isn't it? So that would go there. And then you're just going to put this into the calculator, see what you get. So it's going to be 1,700 multiplied by 1.036 to the power of 3. And that gives us 1,890.29, isn't it? So 2 decimals is going to be 29. Yeah? So the interest is going to equal the amount that we get after the 3 years, 1,890.29, minus the amount we started with, which was 1,700. So putting that in, it's going to be 1,890.29 minus 1,700. This is equal to £190.29 pence. So they're quite close, right? But we can see that Jamelia gets more interest. So the answer is going to be Jamelia. Yeah? So Jamelia gets more interest. Since, and then you can just be super clear to the examiner, 190.29 is bigger than 190.02. Perfect. Okay. Part B, it says in the 3rd year, the rate of interest for the investment account is changed to 4.2% per annum. Does this affect who will get the most interest by the end of 3 years? Give a reason for your answer. So, who had the investment account? It was Jamelia, right? Jamelia already gets more interest, right? So if this percentage has increased, she's just going to get even more interest. The gap will be even bigger, right? So it won't have any effect because Jamelia will still get the most interest. So you're going to say You're going to say no, as Jamelia already gets more interest. More interest than Carter. Than Carter. She would get even more. She would get even more. Get even more interest. Right? And that's it. And that's question 21 finished. Okay, so question 22 says M, N, and P are points on a circle, center O. MON is the diameter of the circle. MP is 3.5 centimeters. PN is 9.7 centimeters. Angle MPN is 90 degrees. Work out the circumference of the circle. Give your answer correct to three significant figures, and this is 4 marks. Okay, so firstly, they've asked us for the circumference of the circle. Now, we need to know the formula for the circumference of a circle for us to be able to even answer this question. So I'm going to write this, right? The formula for the circumference of the circle, there's actually two versions. There's either pi times diameter, or you could also write this as 2 pi r. Now, these mean the exact same thing. Now, if I look at the question here, we've got MON, which is the diameter. We don't know it, but because I can actually just calculate the diameter, right, I'm going to use this version of the formula. So I'm going to rub this one out. Yeah. So either way, that doesn't mean we can't use the other one, but I'm going to use this one. Now, how do we calculate the circumference? We need to just times the diameter by pi. So we need to calculate what the diameter is. Now, if I look at this line where the diameter is MON, this just happens to be the hypotenuse of a right angled triangle, right? Where we know two of the sides already. What do we use? What method, what formula, or what theorem do we use when we have two sides of a triangle? We're finding the remaining. It's Pythagoras' theorem. So let me just write that there and remind you guys. Actually, I'll write here actually. So I have a right angle triangle like this. This hypotenuse, the diagonal side is always C. A and B can swap, it doesn't matter, but C must be there. And the formula is A squared plus B squared is equal to C squared, right? So with that being said, if I use what I've got, I can say that this is 3.5 just from the diagram, and I can say that this here is 9.7. So if I plug that into the formula, remember we're looking for MON, which is in our case C. Let me write MON because that is MON, isn't it? So that's gonna be 9.7 squared plus 3.5 squared, and that will equal C squared, right? Which is MON. So now I'm gonna put this in the calculator, see what I get. It's gonna be 9.7 squared plus 3.5 squared, and that is equal to that number there, 106.34. So I'm going to say C squared is going to equal 106.34. And now to get C, remember, we're squaring, we're going to square root both sides, aren't we? Like that. And then I'll put that in my calculator to see what I get. Root of answer, because I already had it stored, is going to be that number there. And it's going to be 10.31, blah, blah, blah. And I write dot, 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 just to show the examiner I'm not actually rounding it. So now remember C was MON, which is the diameter. So I'm going to say MON, which is equal to the diameter, is equal to 10.31, right? Now, the question asks us for the circumference, and we know the formula for the circumference is pi times the diameter. So now I can finish this off. I can say that the circumference, which is capital C, right? Or let me just write, so it's clear actually. Um, I'll write circumference. I'll write circum for short. Circumference is going to be pi times the diameter, which is 10.31. So putting that into the calculator, what do we get? Well, remember, I've got that number stored. All I need to do is press shift and then pi and then times answer. And I get that there. And they wanted it to three significant figures, didn't they? So that is going to be 32 point. That's the one decimal place, 32.4. So the answer is going to be 32.4 centimeters. And that is it. That's question 22 finished. Okay, so question 23 says, well, it doesn't say much, but we've got a right angle triangle. They've given us one of the sides, 12.6, and we've got an angle, and we've got a side called x. The question says, work out the value of x. Give the answer correct to three significant figures. Okay, so we've got a right angle triangle. As I said, we've got an angle given to us, and we've got a side given to us, and we need one of the other sides. This is a classic case of trigonometry, right? So always with these types of questions, ask yourself, what do I have in front of me? What specific type of triangle do I have? It's a right angle triangle. It's going to be trigonometry, right? Due to the fact that we've got an angle. So what do you always do first? Well, I'm going to write the acronym SOHCAHTOA, right? Because I know that's what I'm going to be using. And what I always tell my students is whenever you're dealing with these questions, you always want to label the triangle, right? So how do we label? This is the angle here. The side opposite that acute angle is always called the opposite side. The side opposite the right angle is always the hypotenuse. It's the longest side. And the side in between that angle and the right angle is called the adjacent. Like that. So now we've labeled our right angle triangle. The question is, okay, you want to ask yourself two questions when you're looking for a side in trigonometry. What side do I have? Well, I've got 12.6 and that corresponds to the adjacent, right? So what I'm going to do is highlight where I see an A in these acronyms, which is there and there. So immediately it can't be SO. So I'm going to cross that out altogether. Now, the next question, now that you've answered what side you have, is what side are you trying to find, right? Now, I know I'm looking for X, and that corresponds to the hypotenuse. So which one has an A as well as an H? It's this one. And so we know that it can't be TOA, and the winner is CAT, right? And that is how you choose which one you're going to use. So what does this actually mean? Remember, this is just short for the cosine of an angle is equal to A stands for adjacent, H stands for hypotenuse. And then now you're going to plug in everything that you know. So what do I know? I'll do it here. The angle is 52 degrees. The adjacent is 12.6. And the hypotenuse is X. So I'm here. Now, for a quick tip, if you ever see this question here, right, where you've got the X on the bottom, normally it's on the top, but sometimes it can be on the bottom. All you need to do is just swap these around. Just literally swap these over. So what happens is that it will just become, whoops, it will just become X is equal to, you know what, let me write this up actually, bring this up a bit so I've got room. Put it there, and then, yeah, and I'll put this there. So yeah, it becomes X is equal to 12.6 over the cosine of 52 degrees. And that is going to be your answer. So I'll put this in the calculator and see what I get. So it's going to be 12.6 over the cosine of 52. And that is 20.465. They want it to three significant figures, which is one decimal place, not three decimal places, guys, because I see sometimes people make that mistake. One decimal place because it's three significant figures. That's going to be 20.5. That's going to be 20.5 centimeters. And that's it. That's question 23. Okay, question 24 says a number D is rounded to one decimal place. The result is 13.4. Complete the error interval for D, right? And it's 2 marks. So all you need to do with this one here, right, when you see such error interval questions, right, is I've got that number 13.4, right? And all you're going to do is you're going to attach a 0 to the end of it, like that. And then from here, to get the lower and upper bound, you are going to take and add 5 to this number after the decimal point. So this is 40. If I take 5 away from 40, I get 35. And if I add 5 to 40, I get 45. So you get these two numbers here. And obviously it's just going to be 13.35 there and then 13.45 there. And literally what we're saying there is that 13.35 is the smallest number that would round to 30.4 to one decimal place. And obviously 13.45 wouldn't, right? But anything underneath it, which is why we don't include it. That's why there's no line underneath this inequality symbol. And yeah, that's literally it. So just remember, put a 0, add 5, take 5, and you're good to go. Okay, so question 25 says, there are some people in the cinema. 3/5 of the people in the cinema are children. For the children in the cinema, the number of girls to the number of boys is equal to the ratio of 2 to 7. There are 170 girls in the cinema. Work out the number of adults in the cinema, and this is 5 marks. Okay, so there's a lot going on here. You want to do it sentence by sentence, though. So we've got people in the cinema, right? And 3/5 of the people in the cinema are children, right? Now, as we can see, there are also adults as well, and that's what we're going to calculate. So from this sentence here, I can actually figure out, right, the fraction of adults in this cinema. If there are 3/5 which are children, well, how do we get a whole, right? We need 2/5, don't we? So from that sentence, that tells me that 2/5 must equal the adults. And I'm just going to leave this there for now, right? Okay. Now, It says for the children in the cinema, we've got the ratio of girls to boys, which is 2 to 7, right? And there are also 170 girls in the cinema. So remember when you're dealing with these types of questions, when you've got ratios, right? Ratios is just a way of expressing a total quantity into parts, right? So from here, what we're saying is that if I do 2 plus 7, right? That's 9. So what this is telling me is that there are 9 parts for the children, right? 2 parts are for girls, 7 parts are for boys, right? Now, when you're dealing with ratios, guys, the way you calculate ratios and you work them out is you need to figure out a certain amount of parts and make it equal to whatever value that you get, right? Now, are we able to do this here? Absolutely. We know how many girls there are. There are 170 girls, and we know how many parts the girls represents is 2 parts. So the fact that we've got 170 girls here, and the fact that we know that the girls represent 2 parts, that tells us that 2 parts must equal the 170 girls, right? Now that we know 2 parts is 170, we can calculate what 1 part is and then work out how many boys there are and how many children there are in general, right? And then that will allow us to work out the number of adults. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, well, 1 part is equal to 100, well, not 170, but I'm going to divide it by 2, aren't I? And obviously you can just do this without it, which is going to be 85. But you just want to use your calculator because you always want to check 1 plus 1 is still 2, you know? So 170 divided by 2 is 85. And then from there, we could work out how many boys there are, right? Or you could just go directly to work out how many children, to be honest, but I'll just do it like this. 7 parts is going to be 85 times by 7. That which is 595. Let me just so it's clear. That's 595, isn't it? Yeah. And then obviously, total children, right? We can now calculate. To be honest, you could actually just do 170 girls plus the 595 boys. I'll do that. 170 plus 595. This is equal to 765, right? Or you could have actually just done, well, there are 9 parts in total. You could have just done 9 times 1 part, which is 85, and you get the same thing. Yeah. So we know how many children there are. Now, we're trying to work out the number of adults in the cinema. Remember at the very beginning, we figured out the fraction of adults in the cinema. Adults were 2/5, children were 3/5, right? So if I put that here again, let me write this here. So children we know were 3/5, adults were 2/5. Now, what you want to remember as well is that fractions can be written as ratios, can't they? Right? Because remember, the denominator 5 is the amount of parts. If you think about it, the denominator is the total parts, and the numerator is the specific amount of parts for whatever you're dealing with. So if I write the ratio of children to adults, right? Well, there's 5 on the bottom, so there's 5 parts. There's 3 for the children, and there's 2 for adults. So the children to adults ratio is actually 3 to 2. Now, why is this helpful? Because we know how many children there are. There are 765, and we know that there are 3 parts. So I can say then that 3 parts here must represent the 765, right? And then that way, just like before, we can calculate what 1 part is. So doing that, I'm just going to divide by 3, aren't I? Divide by 3. So I'm going to put this in my calculator and see what I get. 765 divided by 3 is equal to 255. Like that. And then now to get 2 parts, which is what we want, which is the number of adults, we're just going to double this, aren't we? So 255 times by 2, put that in your calculator, you get 510. And this must be the adults, isn't it? Because the adults are 2 parts. So the answer is just going to be 510 adults. And that's it. That's question 25 finished. Okay, so question 26 says, the diagram shows an empty tank in the shape of a cylinder. The cylinder has radius 15 centimeters and height 52 centimeters. Water flows into the tank at a rate of 0.53 liters per minute. Calculate the number of minutes it will take to completely fill the tank. Give your answer correct to the nearest minute, and this is a 4 marker. Okay, so firstly, we want to work out how long it takes to completely fill the tank, right? Now, water is flowing, right? What unit of measurement comes to mind? It must be volume, right? And we've got a cylinder here. So the first thing I'd want to work out or remember, right, is the formula for the volume of a cylinder, right? And that is equal to, I'll do it here. The volume of a cylinder is equal to pi r squared times h. It's a kind of prism, isn't it, right? The face is a circle, pi r squared. The length is that height, yeah? So that is the formula for the volume of a cylinder. So if we want to work out the number of minutes it takes to completely fill the tank, well, let's look at what they've told us about the rate. It's 0.53 liters per minute. So what I'm going to do is actually write that. I'm going to write for every minute, 1 minute, right, is equal to 0.53 liters. And I want to work out how many minutes it takes, right, to fill the capacity. So I need to work out the volume of this tank in liters, right? So let's use that formula and continue. So what do we have? Well, we've got the radius. I don't know. The radius is 15. The height is 52. So if I plug that into there, it's going to be the volume is going to equal pi, and then the radius is 15 squared, and then 52, like that. And all I'm going to do is plug this in. So it's going to be pi, and then 15 squared times by 52. That is equal to 11,700 pi, or that number there, 36,756. But what I'm going to do, just to keep it more accurate, right, you can just use that number for now, 11,700 pi, right? And this is in centimeters cubed, isn't it? Now, we want it in liters, don't we? Right? So remember, now you've got to remember your conversions for centimeters cubed and liters, right? What you should remember is 1,000 centimeters cubed, right, is equal to 1 liter. So if I want to go from centimeters cubed to a liter, I need to go from that 1,000 to that one, and you divide by 1,000. So therefore, this here in liters, you're going to divide by 1,000, right? So I'll put this into my calculator and see what I get. So I'm just going to do answer, because I've got it stored, divided by 1,000. This gives me this number here, which is going to be 117 over 10 pi, and it's going to be in liters. And obviously, if you want to just write as an actual number, just so you can actually see it, like visualize it and actually grasp what the actual value is, that's great too. So I'll put this here, and then I'm going to just write like this there. That just means approximately, and I press SD, 36.75, blah, 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 right? Liters. So these are the same thing. Now, we know the rate. For every minute, there's 0.53 liters being filled. So what we'd want to ask ourselves is, well, how many 0.53s go into this? And that's our answer. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'll write this out one more time. We know that 1 minute is equal to 0.53 liters. We want to work out how many minutes it takes to get that number there, right? How many minutes is that? So we're just going to divide them. Yeah. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to do 36.75 dot 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 divided by 0.53 and see what I get. Now remember that number is stored. There's no need for me to round or anything. So I'm going to just do answer divided by 0.53, and that is equal to 69.352, blah, blah, blah. Now they wanted it to the nearest minute, right? So to the nearest minute, that's just to the nearest whole number. That's just going to be 69 minutes. So the answer is just 69. And that's it. That is question 26 finished. Okay, so question 27 says the diagram shows a shaded shape AEBCD made by removing triangle AEB from the rectangle ABCD. Okay, AE is 7.2, BE is 5.4, BC is 6 centimeters, and angle AEB is 90 degrees. Work out the perimeter of the shaded shape, and this is 4 marks. Okay, so now, firstly, perimeter. Let's remind us of what that means. You just add all of the sides of your shape together. So what I'm going to do is highlight each side, right? So this is one side of the shaded shape, that which we know. This is another side, 5.4. This is another side, like that. And then we've got the base here, right, which we do not know. And then we've got this one here, which is actually the same as the other side because it's removed from a rectangle, isn't it? So this has to be 6 centimeters as well. So I put 6 centimeters there. And essentially all I need to calculate is that side in pink. Now, how do I calculate that side? Well, you just want to look at it and stare at it, right? For me, remember they told us that we removed a triangle, right, from a rectangle. Well, where would that rectangle be? Well, it would be here, isn't it? So if I was to do that there, I can just draw a line like that, right? And that would be obviously the top of the rectangle. Now, when I look at this, well, let me actually fill this in actually. Why not? If I do that, right? Well, then I have a triangle here, don't they? They even told us triangle AEB, didn't they? Right? We've got two sides of this triangle AEB. We've got 7.2 and 5.4, and it's right angled, right? How do we calculate the missing side of a right angled triangle when we know two of them? It's Pythagoras' theorem, isn't it? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to actually just draw that triangle out again, just so it's super clear. So let me just zoom out a bit. So it's going to be like this. It's going to be something like that. And then this is 7.2. That is 5.4. And this is a right angle right there. And this here is opposite the right angle. This is your hypotenuse. This is going to be your C. This is going to be your A. And this is going to be your B. Right? Remember the formula? We did this, I think, a couple of questions ago. Pythagoras' theorem anyway. It's just going to be A squared plus B squared is equal to C squared, isn't it? Right? Remember, A and B can swap. C has to be the hypotenuse opposite the right angle. So plugging in everything I have here is going to be 7.2 squared plus 5.4 squared. And that will equal C squared. So plugging that into the calculator is going to be 7.2 squared plus 5.4 squared. And this is equal to 81, right? So therefore, I've got 81 is equal to C squared. This is a square number, right? The square root of 81 is going to be 9, right? So C is equal to 9. So that distance here is 9, right? Which so happens to be this one. And remember, it's a rectangle. This has to be 9 as well, isn't it? So therefore, we've got all of the sides needed to calculate this perimeter, don't we? So what I'm going to do now is say that the perimeter, I'll call it P, is going to equal the green and blue side, which you already knew, 7.2 plus 5.4. Yeah. Plus the two sixes, 6 plus 6, and then plus that 9. And I'm just going to put this in the calculator and see what we get. So it's going to be 7.2 plus 5.4 plus 6 plus 6 plus 9. And that is equal to 33.6 centimeters. And that's it. That's question 27 finished. Okay, question 28 says solve the simultaneous equations 2x plus 9y is equal to 14.5 and 7x plus 3y is equal to 8. Show clear algebraic work, and then this is a 3 marker. Okay, so whenever you're dealing with simultaneous equations, guys, remember you want to treat them as columns, and your job is to eliminate one of these variables, x or y, and you can choose either one, doesn't matter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose to eliminate y just because 9 is a multiple of 3, isn't it? So I just need to times that bottom one by 3, right? So I've got two equations. I've got equation 1. I've got equation 2. I'm going to multiply equation 2 by 3, right? Just so we can get the y's to have the same number in front. So if I do that, 7 times 3 is going to be 21x, like that, plus 3y times 3 is going to be 9y. And then 8 times 3 is 24, like that. So now that I've got that, what I can do is write the questions again. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this one on top. So it's going to be 21x plus 9y is going to equal 24, like that. And then the 2x plus 9y, I'll put that on the bottom just because I want it to be positive. It doesn't matter. You could do it the other way as well, but I just want the numbers to be positive when I take them away. So all we're going to do is literally just take these away. So it's going to be 21x minus 2x, right? That's going to be a 19x. Take that away. 9 and 9 is 0. We expect that. So I just put plus 0 there. And then 24, take away 14.5 is just going to be 9.5, isn't it? Yeah. So we get that. And then now we can get rid of that 0. So I have 19x is equal to, so 19x is going to equal 9.5. And then now, as you can see, we've eliminated that y, right? We just have one equation in one variable now that we can easily solve. So it's going to be x is equal to 9.5 over 19, right? And then just put this into the calculator. 9.5 over 19. This is equal to 1 over 2, right? Or 0.5, like that. So perfect. We've got x. Now, once we know what x is, we go back to one of our equations, right? And figure out what y is. Now, it doesn't matter which one you use. You can use any one, right? What I will do is I'll use the bottom one just because we're dealing with integers here, not decimals, but it doesn't actually matter. So I'll use the bottom one. 7x plus 3y right, is equal to, what was it, 8. I mean, technically, that is going to be a decimal now. It doesn't matter. Anyways, it's going to be 7 times 0.5, right, plus 3y is equal to 8. Now, 7 times 0.5 is actually just half of 7, which is 3.5. Plus 3y is equal to 8. And then now, to get y, we're going to take this over. So it's going to be 3y is equal to 8 minus 3.5, right? Which is going to be 8 taken away 3 is 5, 4.5, like that. And then now, to get y, we just divide that by 3, don't we? And obviously, this is a calculator paper, so you can just put this in your calculator. It's going to be 1.5. So we now know what y is, right? We knew what x was. So x was 0.5, y is 1.5. So put that in. 0.5, 0.5, and x is 1.5. And that's it. That's question 28 finished. And that is the entire paper finished. Hey guys, so yeah, that's the end of the paper. Hopefully you found it helpful for your revision. Any questions that you may have found a bit tricky, I'm hoping that this walkthrough has clarified things and you feel more confident for paper 2 on the 4th of June. So yeah, half term is coming up now. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna actually write a provisional paper 3. That way, once paper two is done and we've seen it, I can just quickly edit it and chop it up. So I've actually done paper 3 for hire. I haven't done paper 3 for you guys yet. So I'm gonna do that this half term. And yeah, that is pretty much it. Yeah. One more predicted paper. These take quite a long time to do, so I'm so happy that I've done 2 sets of them now, paper 1 and both paper 2. So I've just got one more to do, and then yeah, we can call it a day. But yeah, more importantly, I'm hoping that this video has been helpful for you guys, and yeah, you guys are doing really well. I'm proud of every single one of you. You know, you guys are always in the comments just asking questions and just showing support, so I really do appreciate it. And yeah, guys, you're doing so well. Not long to go. Just keep motivated, keep doing what you're doing, and you guys will do really, really well. Not just for maths, but for all of your exams. But yeah, that's pretty much it from me. And yeah, as always, if you found the video helpful, it'll be much appreciated. Much appreciated if you like, comment, and subscribe. Share with your friends. Share with anybody that you think would find these videos helpful. But yeah, again, good luck for paper 2. I know you guys are gonna smash it. And yeah, I'll see you guys soon. Take care. Bye bye.